Welcome back to the channel. We will be doing something new over the next few weeks where I'll be reacting to the entire Mark Manson versus the Manosphere debate from Jubilee. And what we'll do is we'll break it out piece by piece, one debate at a time, and be releasing a new clip each day. Let's start with the first clip.
So I think it's important to ask first, what do you mean by the Manosphere?
I would say it is the subculture of men's dating and life advice that is particularly identifiable by its sexist and traditional beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, feels a little bit no true Scotsman-y. If you define the category as being sexist, then from the category moving out from there, we're gonna have a problem. Because I'm not a sexist. And so if you wanna say that like, if you're in the Manosphere, that means you're sexist, or no true member of the Manosphere isn't sexist, like that's not a productive.
So how do you define it?
I think the Manosphere are people who focus heavily on men's issues and are trying to instruct men on how to lead better lives, who are trying to fulfill a role that maybe a father should have or maybe can't because of a variety of societal environments. And they might do that well, they might do that poorly. And I think the discussion is about how well the sort of figures that are gaining popularity are doing that.
Right.
And maybe some of them might be sexist and some of them might be telling true things, and there's kind of a variety of mixed bags on this. But before I move on, does that seem like a reasonable starting point for what the Manosphere is?
That would be a broader definition than I would give to it.
Well, yeah, you defined it as sexist, and so obviously mine's much broader. Like,
yes.
I'm not even in your definition.
He's got preconceived notions.
I am in your definition.
Right.
So I would say what has become popularized as the Manosphere, and maybe my reading is off on this, but it's stuff like the Tate brothers, Myron Gaines, Harrison Sullivan, all the guys featured in the recent documentary that came out, like that kind of brand and flavor of men's advice. And I'll say this too. So back when I was in this industry and I was giving men advice professionally, there was a pretty clear delineation between the guys who were just genuinely like, hey, let me help you try to get a date. Like, let me help you try to make.
It's tough out there.
Yeah, like help you get a raise at work, right?
Yeah,
and there
Go
was
to
a
the
whole
gym, get stronger,
there was
be
a
more
whole
confident.
subculture of men who really very much define their message around anti-feminism. Women are ruining culture and society.
Well, feminism is ruining culture and society. That doesn't mean all women are, but it does mean feminism is. And I think it's an issue to conflate the idea of like, oh, women.
So before we get into feminism, I think it's really important to discuss what is the Manosphere. Because as someone who's been working with men, starting off in spiritual communities, starting off in personal growth, personal development communities, and then finding myself lumped in with more hateful, more lower vibration, more superficial other influencers, it's been a big challenge for me. So what is the Manosphere? The Manosphere is many things, right? It's anything pertaining to men and the current problem in dating, mental health, relationships, and society for men, right? And that can include the red pill. I think the red pill specifically is around educating men on how we actually live in a femme-centric society, a matriarchal society, how the corporate institutions and the legal system and society is basically been designed to work against men and for women. So the red pill is really about opening men's eyes up to where they may have been deceived around men's issues and women's issues, right? Then there's let's call it the masculine motivational squad, who's all about go to the gym, get more muscles, make more money, have game, be a man. And it's very external facing. It's still positive for men. It's still growth oriented for men, but it's very superficial. It's very external facing. It's basically saying that, yes, women these days want the most attractive men. They want the top 10% of men, right? They want men who have financial success and can give them resources and can provide a great life for them, right? They want men who are in shape and attractive and all these things. And they're still very on the superficial side of growth and improvement of you're going to attract women based off of superficial means. Then there's the personal growth, personal development, spiritual growth. And this is the realm I play in the Manosphere. And I'd say there's not a lot of influencers in this space, but there's a small number of people who believe get your mind right, process your emotions right, be stoic, get out of your nice guy syndrome, speak your truth, own your power, take risks, be a masculine man, but for how you are internally. So stop seeing the world based on your victimhood. Stop seeing the world based on your people pleasing. Stop seeing the world based on permission seeking and being nice and wanting acceptance, and start to live from your belly, live from your balls, speak your truth, own your power, take risks, be a leader, create relationship dynamics with women where there's subconscious communication between your masculine leadership, your masculine vision and penetration, and her feminine receptivity, right? So these are things that are more grounded in spirituality. These are things that are more grounded in human nature, nature of man, nature of women, masculine nature, feminine nature, etc., right? Then you've got the master manipulators, right? The pickup people who are all about, okay, do this and you'll get this result. So the manosphere can mean many, many things. And the issue I have is that it's all being lumped into the pickup artist and red pill side of things. I'm not even against the red pill side of things, because I think there's a lot of truth in the red pill. There's a lot of truths around how society is constructed, how our corporate system, our legal system, everything is constructed. But everything is lumped in from the eyes of the outside, from the eyes of the internet, as the most toxic version of, right? So anything manosphere is pickup artist manipulation. Anything manosphere is hitting on women. And that's just not the truth. There's a lot of men who are putting in a concerted effort to be better, to get better, to be the best version of themselves, but also to understand women at a deeper level, just like they're understanding themselves at a deeper level. And sometimes understanding women at a deeper level brings out some difficult truths. When I, for many years in my 20s and early 30s, didn't have much success with women, I put them on a pedestal. I thought being with a woman would be the most amazing thing. And after being on dates with a few hundred women, I'll tell you something. There's a lot of things that aren't that exciting for me anymore. There's a lot of things where I say, here we go again. The same disrespect, the same entitlement, the same selfishness, same self-focus, all of these things. So being aware and seeking the truth, which is my way of looking at the manosphere. What is the truth? What is my true nature as a man? How can I get out of my nice guy syndrome? How can I get out of my feminized soft man and be the most masculine version of myself? But also, how do I observe women for their behaviors and their actions, and not just say all women are bad, but also all women are great and beautiful and the prize. So where can you actually observe people based on their behaviors, their actions, and track trends accordingly? So the manosphere can mean many things. I think so many men, from my experience, are focused on personal growth, on self-improvement, and that's largely being ignored because of the most toxic side of the manosphere, which any movement will have a healthy side and a toxic side. The most toxic side is the one that's getting the most spotlight. Let's go ahead and resume. They're talking about how feminism is the problem.
Like women
Sure.
versus the philosophy of feminism.
Sure.
Because you could have male feminists who I think are often more destructive for culture than female feminists are.
Right.
And you could have women who are not feminists.
True. Male feminists
so on both ends, I think
are the
that's
worst.
A conflation not to make.
Okay. So my claim specifically is about the men in this space who their primary message towards men is that of anger, that of selfishness.
Men are angry right now, and they have a right to be.
I think there's a lot of different things there. I think there are a lot of things that you should be angry about.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that you should be a victim. And I think that just because a certain society has decided that the future is female, has decided to instruct men from a very young age, has removed fathers from the home, has used various incentive programs to encourage single motherhood rates, has made it such that
Everything
boys
that's
are told
happened
from
right
age
now
7
is
that
incentivized.
The fundamental way to view history is a patriarchy. And because other men used to be bad, which I think is even debatable a claim on its own, that you therefore are bad as well. And I think that there's a lot of things that you should be angry about. And if you have a young boy who's going through that, if you have gone through that, these are things you should be angry
Men,
about.
be
Doesn't mean you
angry,
should be
but don't be
selfish.
aggressive. aggressive
thing idea
and don't
of,
be a
like,
victim.
You shouldn't intimidate and you shouldn't lead with force. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't be a
Agree.
dominating figure. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't lead with a positive masculine leadership.
This guy's so
What
well
that is,
spoken.
it is a dominant. And if you have a young boy who's going through that, if you have gone through that, these are things you should be angry about. That doesn't mean
Mark
you should be
doesn't like
selfish.
it.
Right.
Same thing idea of, like, you shouldn't intimidate and you shouldn't lead with force, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't be a dominating figure. And I think the good manosphere figures, I mean, you named a couple of them, whether they're good or bad, I don't want to mention the personal lives of those people, but the message of, like, shut up, go to the gym. I'm sorry your life is hard. And you should be angry about that and you should fight back, but you need to channel that into, talking to that pretty girl anyway.
Yeah.
And being strong anyway.
I want to make 2 points. One is that I think you've just done the same thing with feminism that you accused me of doing with the Manosphere, right? Which is taking some of the most extreme claims and then classifying the entire school of thought based on those extreme claims. We can get into the nuts and bolts
Well, I'm
of that,
taking what's taught in elementary schools.
which is some extreme stuff. And
The extreme manosphere stuff isn't taught in elementary schools.
I understand
The
that.
future is female. You see people wearing that in their elementary schools.
I
Yeah.
understand.
They
we
can
agree that's an
celebrate
extremization?
feminism,
I do agree.
but
with that. So
you're
I
a
would
criminal
agree
if
with
you
on
celebrate
that
anything
portion being
pro-masculinity, right? It's terrible.
This,
Funded by the state.
Yes. The second point, there's the advice and then there's the packaging, right?
Yes.
What you just said, right? Get your life together. Go to the gym. Take care of yourself. Like, work
Amen.
on
Yes,
yourself.
sir.
Right? Like, these are all great things. My point would be that you can get that advice in 100 other different places without the toxic packaging.
But that doesn't go
attached to it.
viral. People don't see it. The media
Totally.
suppresses it. The environment, if you want to get the message out, you have to go extreme. And I wish we didn't have that. And if we want to talk about how we should restructure the systems of YouTube,
I want to talk about the toxic packaging he's talking about and going extreme. So why is it that some of these more extreme manosphere views are the ones that are the most popular? It's because it's speaking to people's pain. It's speaking to the pain of these men. And I think that's something that really needs to be understood here. Men are not being talked into being anti-feminist. A lot of men, some are. Some men who are just on the internet all the time, just watching these videos, they might get talked into it. But the men who are out there in the world, and I know many of them, I run men's groups with more than 3,000 men have come through my communities, and I've been on a lot of dates myself, dated a lot of women, had relationships with several women. And the challenge we're running into is the reason the toxic packaging is so effective is because it's playing into what these men are actually feeling in their own dating lives. So if you take away the internet, if you take away brainwashing and programming and all these things, men are experiencing these things, and the anger that's coming through in the packaging of the red pill is absolutely speaking to their pain. Each and every time a man likes a woman, thinks she's beautiful, starts to daydream about having a good relationship with her, potentially even giving her a good life, then she ghosts him for 3 days, he feels intense pain in his heart. Each time a man sees a woman that he really wants to connect and get to know her, and then she starts to be selfish and entitled and ask for things, ask for money, ask for trips, he feels extreme pain in his heart. Each time a man starts to date a woman and expects reciprocity, he gives some and she gives some, and realizes that he's taking all of the burden of the relationship. He's leading, he's paying for things, he's providing, he's working up his muscles and his martial arts skills to protect her from danger, and he's also giving her space to have her career, and he's also supporting her when she's stressed, because women naturally get more stressed out than men, and now that women are in careers, they're very stressful, so now he's bringing the heart, he's bringing the support, he's guiding them into sexuality, and he feels like he's doing everything. That can be very painful. So the reason why this toxic packaging, the anger-based packaging is working so well for men is not because it's some psychological manipulative trick, it's because it's speaking to the pain that men are experiencing. Each time you're ghosted by a woman, each time you show up on a date all dressed up and she doesn't show up, each time you feel like you're giving, the more you give, she takes. And men are experiencing this so much these days. I actually know a lot of men who are more accepting, more flexible than guys in my groups. They're really more adaptable, and they're willing to just take it. They talk about these experiences. They figure out how they can just process the difficulty, process the anger, process the challenges, so they can show up with a smile, kind and happy with women. And of course, I will always show up with a smile, kind and happy with women. But for me, I'll set the boundary more. I'll set the boundary of what's acceptable and what's not, because there's a lot of disrespect being thrown at us. And that disrespect is causing anger. And this anger packaging of the red pill isn't manufacturing anger. It's speaking to an inherent anger from people's life experiences. And I think that's something that a lot of the critics need to understand. On the other side of things, a lot of the anger I'm seeing coming from women, and I'm a man, so I might be biased, but I'm not so sure they're grounded in reality. There are not a lot of over-aggressive men these days. There are not a lot of abusive men these days. There was a time where it was, and I'm glad the feminists spoke at that time, when there was abuse, when there was physical violence. But nowadays, most of the relationships I see, very kind men, very nice men, very giving men with good intentions, being told that they don't deserve more, being told that they're not worth it, not being given the respect they deserve. And I believe that's being manufactured by what's on the algorithm on the female side. But I don't have that algorithm, so I can't speak to it with full conviction. Go ahead.
And everything, that would be great. And I think we're trying to do that now, trying to get this out.
Do you have to go extreme? I mean, like, so I'll give an example of somebody who I do think is a healthy figure in this space, which is Chris Williamson. He is like the 8th biggest podcast in the world right now. Like, he's not extreme. He's not saying all the same shit that like Andrew Tate is saying.
That is hilarious
insane,
that
right?
he uses
like,
Chris Williamson as the best
over 10
example.
million people. I'm not saying any of this shit. I don't think you have to be extreme to get it. And I worry that there's some good messages are being attached to so many poison pills that a lot of young men don't know how to differentiate between the good advice and the toxic advice, that it's leading them down a bad path.
There certainly is some toxic advice out there, but the idea that that's the primary thing that people are learning from these, I don't think that's true.
So to me, it's hilarious that he brings Chris Williamson as the ideal example. By the way, I like Chris Williamson. I watch his stuff. I react to him on this channel. And Chris Williamson, he's like me in a lot of ways, where he's always digging deeper, looking deeper. What is the underlying psychological thing that's happening? What is the underlying emotional thing that's happening? What's the underlying spiritual thing that's happening? Because Chris Williamson has good intentions for men and women to really come together in the right way. He doesn't want division. He wants the best for the world, the best for humanity. So I respect Chris a lot in that way. But the reason I laughed when he brought up Chris Williamson is Chris Williamson is a good example of how modern men have to heal today, and it shouldn't be that way, right? Chris Williamson talks about how he took years off to go in monk mode. Chris Williamson talks about how he saw this therapist and that therapist, and Chris Williamson talks about all the healing he's done over several years. And is that what we should be doing? Chris Williamson's basically dedicated his whole life to healing all of the damage done by feminism on him, by his upbringing, by a lot of women. And I'm a no to that. Think of it this way, right? A lot of you people who may be watching this channel, similar to myself, right? I fell sick with a chronic illness. I was in bed for 9 months. I was disabled for several years, right? Through stress, through bad diet, through too much screen time and technology, all these factors which disconnected me from being connected to myself, from my humanity, right? And if you said everybody should fall sick, be disabled like Carl was for 9 months, in bed for 9 months, disabled for several years like Carl was, and then take a pill and do all the work to heal yourself like I did 3 to 4 years, would you say, yeah, let's do that? Or would you agree with a more preventative medicine? Before you fall sick, meditate, do yoga, limit your work hours, limit your amount of stress, make sure you balance health and love and work output. Don't work more than 30 hours a week. If we took preventative measures, which is better? Taking preventative measures or waiting for everyone to become sick and disabled and then taking reactive measures? It's the same thing here. What Chris Williamson is doing in his positive way, which it is positive, and I like a lot of what he's saying, but it's basically after the damage has been done. It's basically saying, okay, my heart is broken. I have trauma. I have triggers now. I have my nice guy syndrome is too strong. And basically you allowed yourself to get wounded. You allow yourself to get broken. And now you're healing yourself through by dedicating your life to healing. What if we took preventative measures, just like the meditation, the yoga, the balancing your work schedule, the healthy diet, all these things. And the preventative measure for men's mental health, specifically in regard to relationships, is respect. If men were treated with more respect, at least the ones who earned it, right? If you're an abuser, if you're an asshole, you don't deserve respect. But the men who actually put the best foot forward, who actually are giving, who actually are kind, who actually have a vision and intentions in their dating life, and then they get rejected for being soft, they get rejected for being a nice guy, they get rejected for actually showing genuine interest. If those men were just respected by feeling the attraction, the trust to his leadership, and being treated well, then you wouldn't have to go through this whole multi-year process of healing that Chris Williamson talks about. So to me, it's a crazy idea to think that's the ideal, is get bent, get broken, get wounded, and then fix it, and that's healthy. And that's a lot of what I see in my men's communities. I'll just say it. There's a lot of guys who are willing to get the wound, who want to get the wound, who want to get hurt and then heal it. What about the preventative measures of the masculine nature to be empowered? Why not empower men? Why not respect men? So then you don't have to go through this rabbit hole of healing. This is something that's really important to me, because everyone talks about, oh, you're wounded and now let's heal in a healthy way. And I agree with that, because I've spent years healing myself, just like Chris Williamson. But it shouldn't have to be that way. If we didn't have the toxic food, we wouldn't need to clean our gut, right? If we didn't have the overstress, we wouldn't have to heal a broken nervous system, right? If we didn't have all this technology we're staring at, we wouldn't have to deal with a discombobulated mind. So why don't we actually prevent the issue instead of needing to break and heal? And to prevent the issue of the men's current anger, the men's current mental health issues, the men who are walking their own way, it would be for the men who earn it, the men who actually take their leadership and put their best foot forward, to treat them with respect, with trust, and reward them for them putting their best foot forward. But nope, that's not allowed, because respecting a man is not on the bingo card. Let's go ahead and move forward.
If you're gone down the rabbit hole and you're watching, 6 hours of Myron Gaines and 4 hours of Andrew Tate, and you're watching Clav streams all the time.
Clav is so toxic. I do not
people who are involved in the Manosphere.
encourage that
It's not
guy.
what's happening. The things that you're getting from these people are saying, you know what, maybe you should put more interest into your look. It's not everything, but obviously your look matters. And maybe you should go to the gym. It's not everything, but obviously the gym matters. All of these messages may be packaged with a more extreme idea to it.
Sure.
But the extremeness is how you go viral. And someone like Chris Williamson and someone like
true.
yourself, these are great people. But you guys aren't being the number one talked about person on the internet. You guys aren't changing the fundamental way that people view our culture.
They're selling a vision that doesn't
The internet isn't
speak
set up
to
for that.
the men's pain
We're also
point.
not doing it because I don't think it helps. So for
Tate
example,
and Myron are
Move
speaking to
Member
their pain.
survey
These guys are
from
creating a
2025 found
utopia that men
young
cannot
men who
envision.
regularly consume
Because they
Manosphere
can't-
content or
they haven't
masculine
experienced that.
Influencers were much more likely to report feelings of worthlessness, extreme sadness, and extreme anxiety.
That's backwards causation. It's the people who are feeling extreme worthlessness are looking for someone to teach them what to do.
That's what I
I
said.
don't see that same correlation show up in other self-help genres, though.
Well, that's how self-help genres don't help almost always. They're almost always feel-good nonsense. If you're told you're good the way you are, you can do whatever you need, you're a magic special person.
Doesn't bring
That's
results.
the kind of thing that someone who is looking for that kind of
It
experience.
just makes you
The
feel
person
better.
who is feeling bad needs someone to tell them, yeah, you are feeling bad. And you need to grow up and you need to get strong. And so the correlation
To bring results.
Down and it's
Well,
not,
it is. We just agreed that elementary schools are trying to oppress men at the age of 7.
Is that the Matrix?
The state, funded by the state. Of course, it's the Matrix.
Is this a federal policy to tell 7-year-olds that the future is a woman?
It's
a
in every
whole
elementary
political
school. We just agreed
party.
on that.
I did not agree it's in every elementary school.
Okay, not every single one.
I agree
but
it's in
It's the
some,
platform
and
of an entire
probably
political party.
The doing of certain far left teachers and educators.
Which begins in the far left universities, which are funded by the state and are
And the
structured
far
from the top
left
down to oppress.
is the
So
left.
the structure
It's
isn't
not just the
natural.
extreme end of the
Bring it
left, it's their
back
main
to my
platform.
point,
Yeah.
which is that you just made the point that a lot of self-help advice is bullshit.
Oh, almost all of it, yeah.
Garbage, right? Let's take like the secret.
I don't agree
law
that
of
it's all
attraction stuff.
bullshit.
Do you agree that that's kind of ridiculous? Because I do.
Law of attraction, I'm not sure exactly how that works.
I don't.
It's
I
like
believe
if
it.
you
I believe in
just,
heart coherence. I've experienced
believe
it.
that
It was
you
part of my
deserve
healing
something,
process.
The universe will give it to you.
Oh yeah, that's nonsense.
Okay.
But it is the case that you could fake it till you make it, and if you act as though you have it, you might be more likely to get it.
Perfect. So we agree on that. So that's a perfect example of what's actually like kind of a good piece of advice, but then it's packaged in this ridiculous cosmological, like, oh, the universe's energy is going to serve you what you deserve. And
That's
all
your
this shit,
opinion,
right?
It's
sir.
almost the health and wealth gospel, which is
Right.
a violation of the the Christian heresy, basically.
But that gets millions of people to start focusing more on their goals and dreams. So my argument is that the Manosphere is doing the same thing. It has all of this ideology around the matrix and the system is oppressing you and you should be angry and all this.
Well, you should be.
So get up and clean your room and go to the gym.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's good advice packaged in this like
But the package that you
elaborate-
just said that you should be angry is the correct package, because
All right,
I'm
we got a
angry.
All right. So to close out, the package is reality. Like I said earlier, I think what Mark Manson saying, I get what he's saying, is that you want to have a positive influence. And that's one of the things I'm bringing to the Manosphere is a positive influence. Let's not focus on what's wrong. Let's not focus on how we're hurt. Let's get better. And the work I do is I teach men how to heal their mind, get their mind right, process their emotions, connect with spirituality, get out of their nice guy syndrome, connect with their masculinity, open their heart after it's been hurt and wounded, so you can actually give to the next woman, so you can actually be the best version of yourself for the next woman. I help men heal psychologically, spiritually, and emotionally so they can come back to the most powerful, fun-loving, and peaceful version of themselves. And it's really, really important that we send this positive message that you don't just want to blame women, right? You just don't want to blame the system. You just don't want to stay stuck in the place of blame so you're a victim and you stay your whole life without having what you want. No, I want you to get what you want. I want your needs to be fulfilled. So that's why me in the Manosphere, I'm focused on men actually getting themselves right, being the most spiritual version of themselves, the most masculine version of themselves, so they can get results, get that beautiful woman, get that kind, loving woman, get that complimentary girlfriend, housewife, etc. So if you're just stuck in what's wrong with the world, you're never going to actually get those things. And Mark Manson is right about that. And I've seen that a lot in the red pill world, that a lot of men are just stuck in their victimhood. So Mark Manson makes a good point of it. Now, where I disagree with Mark is he's saying you shouldn't package it that way. But packaging that way is packaging it in the reality of what these men are experiencing. So even though we want them to heal, even though we want them to grow and transform and become the best version of themselves, you can't ignore the reality of what brought them to this place. So by Mark saying, yeah, you don't want to give an example that makes them angry. No, that is what's actually touching their reality. And if you want to just hide from reality, that's not going to solve the problem. So I do agree with Mark that I do believe there needs to be a little bit more balance in the Manosphere around not just speaking to their problems and their wounds, but also really spending more time encouraging how they can get what they want. And I think a lot of the red pill influencers are doing that with the money, muscles, game frame, right? Go to the gym, make more money, etc. I just don't think it's the right prescription because it's going to bring in more superficial women. If you're fully focused on meeting the needs of the modern woman, which are very financial-based needs, very superficial needs, very entitled. And I believe that the men need to transform from the inside and get their mind right to be the most masculine version of themselves. Process their emotions so they don't get stuck in emotional reactivity. Connect with God, connect with their masculinity, be their true self. That brings mental health, and that will attract the right women and women who are connected with themselves in a deeper way. So the packaging is necessary to reach the men who've experienced what the packaging is, which has brought them to this place. And then the personal growth, in my opinion, needs to be something very deep, very spiritual, very transformative, so the men can actually become the best version of themselves and attract what they want and get what they want instead of being stuck in victimhood for the guys who just walk away and go their own way, or the men who are stuck in superficiality, who decide to get women through money, muscles, game, and frame, and they realize that they're always angry at women because they are leading a connection based off superficial reasons. So the real answer, gentlemen, is allow yourself to feel the pain. Allow yourself to feel the anger of the fact that it's so hard to date in modern times. It's so hard to get what you want, so hard to get respect, to get peace, to get love, to get mutual reciprocity and compatibility. But then do something about it and become the man who can get that, because there are good women out there. I've dated several really good, caring women who are not all these things, not superficial, not all about finances. But in order to get them, you need to be the type of man who communicates with her and aligns with her on the same vibrational level. So self-improvement is what it should be about. Personal growth is what it should be about. And the pain you've experienced is real. And you don't let someone like Mark Manson shut you up. You felt that pain. Just don't stay stuck in that pain. Get better and get what you want. If you learned something from this video, then feel free to check out our links below, which will help you do everything we talked about to become the most masculine version of yourself through internal transformation. And you can learn more about that internal transformation in our Masculine Mastery Method transformational coaching program. You can also learn more about how to show up in early dating with the Masculine Dating School group or join one of our men's group communities. I'll see you on the next video.